Emily and I are here with a preview for a game called Vent Rouge. This is a game of running into a mansion and stealing as much as we possibly can.
There you go.
This is a game built around confrontations with guards that are inside this mansion. And the mansion itself is something you have to navigate, but that is really a means to the end of interacting with all of these guards, trying to collect as much loot as you possibly can, earning money for defeating the guards, because at the end of the game, you're going to be determining how much total money you have, most of which is public information, but some of which is private if you've collected some of the art in the mansion. And whoever has the most is going to win the game.
It's for 2 to 4 players, and while it is competitive, you can choose to work with other players for certain attacks in order to get better loot.
Yeah, it is one of those games where you're going to say, okay, I'm going to go after this guard. Or you can't say, does anyone want to help? They do limit it, so it's not going to be a big, long conversation at the table.
It's not like a 3-hour negotiation game.
No, but you can say, I might need some help with this, because you might be limping in with a little less health than you want to be. You might not be equipped as well as you want to be. So you might look to one other player at the table and say, here's what I'm offering you. Will you help? And then you'll firmly get a no, generally speaking. They might say yes, they might say no. But everyone's going to be able to do that. And any given round, everyone could interact with their own guard when you're moving around in the mansion.
Plus, there's one other person, not just the other players, who you can help. And that's the first thing you're doing around is you're going to see if you can recruit Vent Rouge.
Yes, Vent Rouge. We've been practicing on our pronunciation. He is the namesake of the game after all. Vent Rouge is a character that the first player is going to be able to pay X amount, and that amount may vary throughout the game, but it's going to start at 6. And then if they don't want it, it goes to the next player, and it's going to go down and down. That's going to basically be a phantom player who's going to contribute some dice during your turn so that when you interact with that guard, you're going to have a little bit of a better opportunity of overcoming it.
So by the time it gets to the 4th player, it's going to be considerably cheaper. However, as soon as someone says yes, they do want to recruit him, it's going to go up by 3. So his economy just keeps changing.
So that's the first thing you do. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to determine what you want to do. You do this in player order, but everyone's going to start here at the front door of this mansion. As you can see, there's a network of hallways, and this is kind of the mid-game scenarios right here. So you'll see some spaces are empty, but any of these little tokens represent guards. And there's also going to be some doors with some locks. You're going to maybe pick up some keys so that you can unlock those. But you're going to move as far as you want, but as far as you can as well, because once you meet a guard, you have to stop there, and that's going to be the guard you're going to interact with. But every time you enter the mansion or every time you move through the mansion, you can go as far as you want until you meet either a guard, a locked door, you can't go through walls, of course, but also other players.
Right. So right now, if David tried to go past here and he's like, oh, I'm going to go to this door, I have a key. Oh, you're going to run into me. So I might say, yes, David, you can get past me if you give me a couple of gold.
Exactly. You can ask for permission, and that person might negotiate with you a little bit.
Yep.
But ultimately, you are going to find yourself in a room with a guard, and then in player order, you're going to basically interact with those guards. There's 3 different types of guards, and then, of course, you've got the boss in the middle. The boss is
considerably harder.
A significantly more difficult guard, if you will. And it takes some doing to even get in there. But the reason you're wanting to go into these rooms is to get at some of the loot. You're going to see these loot tokens, which are randomly put out, as are the guards at the beginning of the game. And some of these loot tokens are going to give you artwork, which can vary in value. They can go, I think, anywhere in the teens up to 20. 14 to 20. Some of the gold tokens are going to be values in sort of the 6 to 9 range. Thank you very much. And then, of course, the guards themselves, when you flip them over, are going to show how much gold they're worth. And then there are some icons literally on the board that you're going to get also if you overcome that guard.
There are also some other things on the board that you can see. So like you talked about the keys that you're going to get to kind of unlock different ways to go around. Also, you might run into some servants in the mansion.
Yes.
And on those cards, you're going to be able to either bribe them or scare them away.
Right.
So if you bribe them, you're going to be giving them money in order for them to give you something nice in return, or you can just scare them and then
they drop
they'll give
some
you
coins.
all their money.
They give you all their money.
And they're like an instant thing.
And you might want to do either one of those 2 things, because some of the first abilities might be to interact with the thieves market really quickly to grab an item. These items in the thieves market are going to help you do all the things that you're wanting to do, because the core mechanic of this game and what you do when you're trying to interact with one of these guards or defeat them is to roll dice and place dice on all of the different cards that you have. And everyone starts with a couple cards, all the same.
Yep.
But as you collect cards, it's going to give you more things that you can do with your dice, enabling you to overcome the guard. And when you overcome a guard, you're going to want to defend against their incoming attack, and you're going to want to attack them to ultimately defeat them.
Yes.
Because if you don't defeat them, they're going to run off, you're going to probably get defeated yourself,
Yep.
and you kind of have to basically start over from outside the mansion and run back in.
Exactly. So this is why I want to like offer to partner with somebody and say like, hey, you know, they're going to do 2 types of damage. So on the player board, you can see it tracks my gold, it tracks the enemy's life, which is going to be Valor and Vigilance, and then it tracks my life, which only goes up to 5,
Right.
which is with my Stamina and Stealth.
Yeah, when you're determining on your turn, okay, this is the guard I'm interacting with, then and only then, and before you even flip the guard, you're able to ask one person, hey, will you help out? That person can help out and take half of the damage, so either the Valor or the Vigilance damage,
Yep.
and you can take the other, which is a big benefit because as you flip over these guards, and we found out very quickly, some of them you'll flip over and you'll go, oh, well, I'm not going to win this right now because I've gone in there, my health isn't at max, I don't have a lot of bonus die, which we haven't got to, we'll talk about in a minute. So you might want to partner up. If you go around and you ask one person and they say no, it's done. You can't sit there and say, who wants to do this and let's negotiate.
Yes.
You make an offer, they either say yes or no, you move on. And when you move on, then you're going to flip over a guard. And the guards come in 3 different varieties. There's red ones, there's burgundy ones, and there's gray ones. Those match some of the dice you're going to be rolling because everyone's going to start with 2 gray die, a burgundy die, and a red die. And then there's bonus die of the same colors, but you don't have those. You flip over the card, you're going to see the enemies or the guards' damage that they'll do. You're also going to see their life that we already talked about. Then you're going to see an ability that's effectively in play no matter what. That guard is always going to have that. This ability usually is something that actually benefits you, the player. It's kind of a characteristic of the guard, more like that than an ability.
Like one of the things that's common is the weakness +1.
Yes.
So it says like if I were to do 1 defense against some of his attack, it's actually going to give me 2 defense against that attack.
This one in fact says after blocking 1, all you have to do is block 1 of their damage, and then the rest of the damage that they might do is reduced to 1.
Nice.
So they might be doing like 6 damage, but really all you have to do is block 1 and then you're taking 1 damage. Things like that. The bottom half of the card is going to have more information related to the fleur-de-lis that you might see on the board. As you can see right here, this guard right here has 2 icons in the fleur-de-lis. So you're going to look at the card and go down and say, okay, he's also got that, and anything above it. So as you approach more challenging guards with the 3 fleur-de-lis like this, you're going to have all of those additional abilities. Now those 3 abilities, those all do generally help the guard.
Yes.
Basically makes them tougher. It increases their hit points or their life. It maybe increases their attacks.
Yes. So when you're choosing who to actually go up against on the board, you might be thinking that, okay, to start with, I'll do someone who doesn't have any extra attack. But once I'm starting to get a lot of things accrued, I might say, okay, I can take on this guy with the 3 swords because he has a lot better loot.
And you do really want to go to the thieves market to get things. Now, you can't do that in the first round, nor can you even partner up with someone or use Vent Rouge in the first round. The first round in this game is meant to, I think, teach everyone.
Yeah.
Here's how the game goes. These are the kind of guards you might face. Now, do with that what you will. You can, at any time during this phase where you're trying to choose which guard you're going to go up against, you can say, I'm actually not going to go up against a guard. I'm leaving. And you can run away. And when you run away, that is what allows you to interact with the thieves market. It allows you to get your health back, sort of effectively reset your player board. And you can even run away, or you're forced to run away, if you interact with a guard and lose or get defeated.
Exactly. Which is good because when you go to the thieves market, you can actually pay for things that are going to make it a lot easier for you to do fights in the future. So like, for example, I got the supple boots, which gave me a lower amount of die that it takes to do way more defense against incoming attacks. So there's a lot of different things, and there's 3 different levels of these cards. As we get more and more guards that are defeated, more will come out that we're actually able to use and buy in order to kind of upgrade our hero.
Yeah, this 3rd level, in fact, in a 2-player game comes out after we've defeated 6 guards.
Yep.
So on your turn, once you've decided that you're going after a guard, once you've decided whether or not you have a partner, you're going to roll up your 4 main die, And those are the die that you're going to use. Now, we talked about the bottom half of this board, or alluded to it earlier. When you roll ones on any of these die, everyone at the table is going to raise one of these wind gauges depending on the ones that were rolled. So if a 1 was rolled on a gray die, everyone increases their wind gauge for gray.
When you roll a 1, you get to re-roll it.
Yes.
So if David rolled that 1 as a gray, not only is he going to move it up, I'm going to move it up, but he's going to re-roll it. If he gets another 1, we do it again
Keeps
and
going.
again. But the thing is, you don't want to hoard these, because
No.
if you ever get to the top of the track and you're already at the top of the track for bonus die, oh well, too bad. It's just going to go back to 0, and then you don't get any extra dice.
Yeah, every time the wind gauge gets to the top, you increase the corresponding bonus die gauge. So it's going to basically convert into bonus die that you can take from the table and use on your turn. This is what's going to help you significantly.
Yes.
In fact, everyone starts with 1 bonus die of each, so you can use 1 gray, 1 burgundy, and 1 red. And that's what you really need to do to overcome some of these guards, because once you roll your die, you're using whatever you can on your cards, and you're going to get 2 attacks like that. You roll your die, you assign your die to your cards, you determine, okay, at the end of the day, how much damage is coming in,
And
how much damage am I doing? Then you do that again with just your second attack. And the goal being eliminating their hit points or their life, but surviving as well.
And the hard part is, so we have these gray, red, and burgundy, right? But most of the cards are going to be for red or burgundy attacks. So you can't just have a gray die on its own here. I need to be able to get another purple die in order to use it together on a purple attack. So that's when these bonus dies really come in handy. And that's when we used a lot, right? Is when you're saying, okay, I have a bunch of gray, but I have nothing to assign it with.
Right.
So I need to get a bonus die so I can use it with something, and then I can actually get some attacks out here.
Yeah, those gray die, it's a good way to look at them is they're like wild die, but with a caveat in that they have to be placed with a die of a certain color to be used. Now, there is at least one card in the game where you can use a gray die by itself of a 4 or higher, which lets you immediately get another one and roll it. So there are some things you can do to sort of chain into a bunch of dice being rolled, and depending on what cards you have, you're able to sort of puzzle out mathematically for sure, puzzle out, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is what I need to do to survive. I'm good. And why are you trying to survive? Why are you trying to defeat the guards? Well, you get all the loot in that room, you get the money from the guard, all the things, and this is the point of the game.
Yeah, and I not only want to survive, but I want to also defeat him, right?
Yes.
Because if I don't defeat him, if we both survive and we're both happy, then the guard's going to stay there, but I don't get any of that loot.
No.
So if I'm concealed, then I might get 1 piece of loot from the room. But if I've already been exposed, then I don't get anything.
Yeah, that gray card I alluded to, it's concealed on one side, but it's exposed on the other. And if you don't defeat a guard, you're going to become exposed. And to reset that, you can run away. If you're forced to run away, whenever you're outside the mansion, you can choose before you go back in when you reset to either go back in exposed. I'm not sure.
Well, there's a
why
different
you'd want to
power
consider
on the
that.
exposed side.
That is true.
So you might be saying, like, I'm just going to go all in, going to get the harder guys and get this better thing, but it is much riskier.
You're going to do this until a couple things potentially happen. One of those things is if this track meets the, based on player count, end of the game. Right here, it's at 2 player, but it's much higher for 4. That's the number of guards that have been defeated. Or if at any time someone goes in, even with a partner, and defeats the boss, that too is going to end the game.
Yep.
And then you're simply going to look at all of the things that collect towards victory points, which is effectively the money in the game.
Yes. So you want to be using that money to be getting new stuff and to be helping you get stuff, but you also don't want to use the money because it is going to be your points at the very end.
Yeah, if you can search and find that perfect combination of tools and equipment, you might be able to ride that maybe all the way up to defeating the boss. But the boss is pretty tough. I mean, he's effectively twice as hard in terms of the life that you need to, or 3 times, yeah, based on some of the guards we saw, harder than many of the guards. So it will take a while to get the kind of equipment that you need to go after him.
Right.
And maybe make enough friends at the table to get someone to partner up with you. But we didn't partner up with each other once during our game. I think it probably will be less likely in a 2-player game than, say, in a 4-player game. But that is Vent Rouge. If you have any questions at all about it, please make them in the comments below. We'll get down there, answer whatever we can. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.